Representative Daryl Metcalfe, a Republican from Butler County, the governor has extended his stay-at-home order until May the 8th. What do you think of that?
Well, the governor has been changing routinely throughout the last several weeks on his executive dictates. He blindsided the legislature with shutting down businesses in Pennsylvania when he did it at close of business several weeks back. And over that period of time, with the legislatures pushing back on him to do what is best for the people of Pennsylvania, rather than just making decisions as he's been doing, knee-jerk type of decisions without consulting anyone in the legislature, without consulting anyone in the industry. The governor has made a lot of decisions that have caused more harm for the citizens of Pennsylvania than the virus is actually causing. So for him to come out and say that he wants to extend now to May 8th is once again another real blow to so many families and individuals across the state that have been out of income for weeks now and really are having a hard time putting bread on the table and ensuring that they're going to be able to keep a roof over their heads.
Representative, you said the governor has made lots of decisions that have done more harm than the virus. Which tops the list in your mind?
Well, shutting down business in Pennsylvania and claiming that some jobs are life-sustaining and some jobs are not is the key. When he shuts down the ability for people to go to work and then frightens business owners and individuals from being able to continue going out and making a living. I mean, he's tried to turn neighbor against neighbor. He's really abused our law enforcement folks out there by trying to use them as his enforcers for his unconstitutional dictates that are coming down through executive orders. Generally, over the last 22 years that I've been here, an executive order instructs the executive branch on how to carry forth with policies set by the chief executive. It doesn't make law. What he has done during this time of crisis is he has turned the tables on the people of Pennsylvania and tried to turn himself and his Secretary of Health into lawmakers. What they're doing is issuing these dictates that have the force of law because they're threatening businesses with taking away their abilities to license, threatening them with fines, trying to use local and state police to enforce these unconstitutional dictates. He's done a great harm to the people of Pennsylvania. And when I hear story after story of one story of a young woman that has children and was working 2 jobs prior to losing both of them, and now wondering how she's going to make ends meet to put food on the table for her and her kids. And that's because he won't let people go to work. And the unemployment rolls have soared above 1.3 million people. The unemployment system was not built to handle that type of volume, nor did we ever anticipate it. And we wouldn't have had to endure it if it wasn't for Wolf, because other states have allowed construction to keep moving forward and other sectors of the economy to move forward, which he has hampered, in which we passed legislation last week to try and push him in the right direction, which is to follow federal guidelines for essential jobs rather than his own arbitrary and capricious decisions that him and his administration have been making about what jobs should be there and what jobs shouldn't be. But he's essentially put his bureaucrats in charge of deciding who's going to be able to work and who isn't going to be able to work. And if they're connected, like his family business was connected, then they get a waiver so they can continue operating. But if they're not connected, and we've even heard stories of businesses that were connected to a Democrat lawmaker that were allowed to operate when in another area of the state they wouldn't be. It's just such an arbitrary system he set up, which shows the flaws with going to a type of government where one man is making the decision instead of your elected legislators who are supposed to be making the law in the state.
So just what are those federal guidelines you mentioned a minute ago that you would like to see the governor adhere to?
Well, the federal guidelines that they put out are guidelines that cover various sectors of the economy that provide better guidance that doesn't create such confusion and chaos and doesn't introduce such an arbitrary decision-making process, one in which a waiver has to be established like Wolf has done. And he only established that after pushback from the legislature, because when he came out with his dictate that he was going to shut down all of these jobs in Pennsylvania, he tried to claim these were life-sustaining. All jobs are life-sustaining. All jobs are essential for the individual that works that job so that they can eat, so that they can put food on the table for their families.
Now, you mentioned the waiver program a minute ago. Just how much relief has that program brought to the business community?
Well, it's created, as I said, it's created a lot of confusion and chaos. There's tens of thousands of waivers that have been submitted for, and people are wondering why one waiver is granted and one isn't. I know I got an email from an individual that said that his competitor was allowed to continue operating under a waiver, but his waiver was denied. You know, we see Home Depot and Lowe's still operating, but then small business operators that do sell some of the same types of products that are sold at Home Depot or Lowe's, they've been shut down. Their workers have to go home until Wolf issues his next dictate to allow them to open up. It looks like now maybe May 8th. But the Secretary of Health came out with additional dictates, and the one that they issued last week trying to force everybody to wear a mask. And because they knew they couldn't get away with telling individuals that they would have to wear a mask whenever they went out of their home, they've tried to put it on top of the business owner, threatening them to remove their ability to be a business in Pennsylvania if they don't enforce it. So they've turned these people into enforcers, and they put them in a very bad position where you now have a business owner that has a customer come in, and they're trying to force and make sure that this individual is following the governor's unconstitutional dictate. And now you're creating conflict between the business owner and the individual, trying to use them as an enforcer. I mean, businesses have a sales tax license generally if they collect sales tax in Pennsylvania, and they're licensed by the state to collect that, and then they turn that money back over, the most of it back to the state, and they get a small cut of it for being the collector. But there is no cut off of this for them being the enforcer of Wolf. He's dictated to them, you will be my enforcer, or you will have your business at risk. You will be at risk for fines. I mean, this is outrageous as this is happening in America. And other states have handled it in a much better way following the federal guidelines where it hasn't been so arbitrary and capricious and created such confusion and chaos as Wolf has created.
Representative, we only have a couple minutes left. What's the latest on legislation that's pending in your chamber?
We have legislation today that's before us to allow construction to reopen in Pennsylvania. And that's something that many other states have not shut down with construction because it's just common sense. A lot of folks that are working in construction jobs, they're out there already social distancing, far beyond social distancing, and they're in the outdoors. They don't need to have this nanny state government telling them they shouldn't be out there doing their jobs and earning a living. And because of that, he's swelled the unemployment rolls far beyond what other states. I think we were only second to California when I last checked as far as the unemployment numbers, which is 1 in 5 Pennsylvanians, I believe, now are filing for unemployment of the workforce. It's just really, really a bad situation he's put us in as for our families, for our individual taxpayers. So House Bill 2400, I believe, is the number of the bill. It would open up construction again in Pennsylvania. We have other legislation that would allow us to move forward with car sales in Pennsylvania. That's another thing. If you get in a car accident, you're not able to buy a replacement vehicle because he shut down the ability for our car dealers to operate. I have folks that are trying to move from one house to another. One story where an individual has some health concerns, trying to move to a better home for him and his family, was ready to close on the deal, but now he can't do it because of the governor. I have a man today that I was just reading his email. He can't go get the cortisone shots that he needs for the joint pain that he's having because of the dictates out of Wolf. People that can't get hip replacements or knee replacements that are living in pain day after day with bone-on-bone problems that need to be corrected, but because they've been designated as elective surgery, they're not able to get it, where Wolf still allows Planned Parenthood to electively keep going about giving abortions and killing the unborn when he's not allowing the living to actually have the medical care they need to live a quality life without pain.
Representative, we only have about a minute left. What do you think of this protest that's taking place today at the Capitol?
I actually went out. I had some friends coming in from around the state that were telling me they were coming down for the protest today. Of course, we were in voting session today at 1 o'clock, but I did go out and talk to some of the protesters. What once again was done that put all those folks in a bad position was normally people can come and congregate on the steps to the Capitol. And we have rallies there routinely, especially for Second Amendment rallies that I have annually. And people are able to spread out because there's a large area for those steps. They shut down most of the steps today and pushed the protesters all the way down to the roadside where they just had a few steps to congregate on, which forced a large crowd of people into a smaller area so they couldn't social distance like they would have probably wanted to and like I would have seen them doing.
So what do these protesters want anyway, if you can tell us in just a few sentences?
That's easy. They want to go back to work. They don't want their rights to be stolen from them. They want to have the Bill of Rights protected when we're facing crises. When you're facing a crisis, the best way to address that in a victorious way is to make sure that you abide by our oaths of office, that you defend the Constitution and the God-given rights that are affirmed in those documents, so our free people can meet the challenges that they need to meet head on as a free people in a free marketplace where we see people able to respond much better than government can, because of government making decisions. We see what we've got: chaos, confusion, arbitrary decisions made for the politically connected.
All right, Representative Daryl Metcalfe, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. Good to see you. Hopefully looking forward to seeing you sometime in person in the not too distant future.
Likewise.
Have a good day.
PCN is committed to providing the people of Pennsylvania with the most up-to-the-minute information about coronavirus. Daily special programming with civic, business, and government leaders and how COVID-19 is affecting the community. Airing weekdays at noon and 8 p.m. Live special coverage of the Governor and the Secretary of Health, as well as programming designed to inform and assist everyone impacted. Go to pcntv.com for the latest information.
Wayne Campbell, president of the Pennsylvania Grange, take a minute and tell us about what the Grange is about.
The Grange is a family organization that was established in 1867, that you can join at the age 5 and be a member the rest of your life. We work for rural and urban America in both Harrisburg and Washington, trying to promote well-being for our citizens, and several of our biggest topics are senior health care, rural broadband, anything that would make urban and rural life better.
Wayne, what did you think of the governor's order to shut down businesses in Pennsylvania?
I think he made a very wise decision. It may not have been a popular decision, but I think he did the right thing at the right time. If you look around the country, particularly New York City, you can see the effects of, I think Governor Cuomo did the right thing, but unfortunately, maybe not soon enough. Pennsylvania hasn't seen that, and I think a lot of that is thanks to Governor Wolf's and Dr. Levine's quick action.
Were there any consequences here in Pennsylvania that you didn't expect?
I'll say no, because we're in unprecedented waters, so one could not really expect anything. I was tremendously surprised when we got the word in the office, and I quite honestly, whenever I told our secretary goodbye that night, I had no idea that it would be like this. And we're all anxious to get back, but when we do get back, it's going to be, as everyone is saying, the new normal.
Which businesses were closed that really struck at the heart of your membership?
To say any one particular business, I don't think would be fair. Our membership, as varied across rural and urban Pennsylvania as we are, we've been affected like everyone else. I know everyone can't wait. Take a look at me. I can't wait to get back to the barbershop. And there again, how is that going to be? How are the barbershops going to be able to reopen? Is it going to be on an appointment-only basis? Obviously, I assume everybody would be wearing a mask, but that might be a little difficult trying to get a haircut. So we'll wait and see, but hopefully it's soon.
So, Wayne, as we record this interview on April the 20th, we just heard the news that the governor plans to sign this bill that would make legal the remote notarization of documents. Just what is that, and why is it important to you?
One of the main business that's going to affect is car dealerships, and Pennsylvania State Grange pushed for that very hard in the last week and a half, because a car for a lot of people is a luxury. In rural America, a car is almost a necessity. And I know of a couple people that one was a person that was an essential worker. Their car broke down. It was not economically sound to repair it, and they needed a new car. They couldn't get to work, so they were literally paying someone to haul them back and forth to work every day, because we don't have public transportation. We can't run over to this corner street corner and get on Cat Transit and get to another part of town. So another situation was a lady that was pregnant a few weeks away from delivery, and her car became inoperative and she needs transportation. I can't thank the governor enough for signing this bill that an essential part of rural America can get back to work, not the way we're used to, but they can at least meet a need.
So this may have been an unintended consequence of the business shutdown, not because it's the current law is for the person and the notary to meet face to face, but now you don't have to do that.
Correct, and that's going to allow them to be able to do those sales online, whereby they can, just as you and I are doing right now, they can still see the person and verify it's them doing the signing. They can show them the license ID and verify that that is the person signing. So, when those laws were passed, that wasn't possible, but that's not true today. Technology is right now is changing day to day. So, let's utilize it to everyone's advantage.
So is there other legislation out there, Wayne, that you're keeping an eye on right now that has to do with the COVID-19 crisis?
Yes, there is. And well, not really so much the COVID-19 crisis, but what's going to happen after the crisis. Mm-hmm. At this point, we'd really like to see the legislature move forth Representative Glime's bill. I believe that's House Bill 1328. That allows for limited liability on agritourism. Farmers have really taken a hit during this because of some have had to dump milk when a mile or two down the road was a store that limited purchases of milk. But because of the way federal milk orders and everything are laid out, there's a surplus here, but a few miles away, there's a need. And so farmers are going to have to diversify in order to be able to go. So it would be very important that bill get passed. Another thing that we're looking at. And
wait, one more minute, Wayne. Let's talk about agritourism just for a minute. When you say that, give our viewers an example of what you're talking about.
Agritourism, I think one way to look at agritourism, a word would be education. It gives people that are not on the farm or around the farm to kind of make it like a bed and breakfast. You can go to the farm, stay there for a day or two, experience farm and rural life. And what's really amazing, we have a person in Juniata County that does this, and he has people from all over the world that come to his location and spend a week or two there and learn what it's like to live on a farm in Pennsylvania. The farm show was excellent at educating the city dweller of how and where their food comes from. When I was farming, when I was still a dairy farmer, we had a group of people come to the farm from a camp nearby that had kids from New York and Boston. One of the kids said, I would never buy milk that came from a place like this. And I said, well, where does your milk come from? As true as I'm sitting here and as sincere as could be, he said, my milk comes from the grocery store shelf. So agritourism is another, I'll call it finger of education that can really help people understand where their food comes from.
Wayne, I interrupted you a minute ago. Sorry, you were going to identify another piece of legislation that the Grange is interested in. Please do so.
Yes, but I'm glad you interrupted me. It was very important. Another one is House Bill 37 on distracted driving. And one would say, well, what does distracted driving have to do with COVID-19? Well, if you think about it, once this is over and people can get out and move about, there's going to be so much more people are going to want to get out and move about. And in this day of taking selfies and everything else, we've got to remember that if you're holding a cell phone, if you glance down at the cell phone, by the time you glance back up, you've already traveled a couple hundred feet or even a couple hundred yards, depending on what you're doing. People taking selfies. I even complained myself. I spent over 27 years working for GM dealerships in the service department. And I still say distracted driving, trying to change the channel on your radio on a today vehicle. There are so many things out there like that people just don't realize what the consequences can be.
Well, Wayne, with all the commotion over the COVID-19 outbreak, do you suppose there's any chance this bill you're talking about will get any attention anytime soon?
We're hoping so. We just sent letters to legislators within the last week asking them to, certainly move this bill along for the advantage of everyone. And I know there's still people, every day before every day when I was able to go to Harrisburg, people would pass me and I'd look over and they'd have their cell phone. And then they'd be typing, texting on it or whatever. But I think this just gives one more, the state police, local police, one more arm of enforcement to be able to help us stay safe on the road.
Okay, Wayne Campbell, we're out of time. President of the state Grange, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Larry.
Hey parents, still trying to get the hang of your child learning from home? Let us help. Civics 101, the video game, is a fun way to keep your child engaged and interested in learning about PA government. The more they learn about voting and our 3 branches of government, the further they advance through quizzes, fun reviews, and more. Start the learning today at pcntv.com. PCN, Pennsylvania Politics and Policy.
Joined by Indiana Pacers guard TJ McConnell. He's a Pittsburgh native. Spent 4 years, the first 4 years of his NBA career playing in Philadelphia with the 76ers, and is now in his first season with the Indiana Pacers. So TJ, how is life adjusting for you now as a citizen of Indianapolis, Indiana?
It's been great. We love this city and love playing for the Pacers. Obviously, life is at a stall right now, NBA wise, but working out like 4 or 5 days a week and shooting about 3 days a week in a suburb 40 minutes away from here, and just trying to stay sane. But it's great that I have my wife and dog, and we kind of have spent a lot of quality time that we wouldn't get if the NBA season was here.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's got to be a major shock to you to be sitting idle in the month of February and March. So it's been a long time since that's happened in your lifetime. But obviously, NBA was really the first professional league that shut down. It came out, Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz was the first player that it kind of came out. He was the first one that got diagnosed with it. And it really escalated fast for you. I know you guys were playing right around the time the shutdown happened. But it had to be a very scary 24, 48 hours for you.
Yeah, it was. And, Commissioner Silver deserves a lot of credit. He jumped on it quick and made a decision like a good leader does, and he made the right decision. And, looking back at it, it obviously stunk that we had to cancel or put the season on hold. But when you look at the bigger picture, the health of everyone in the world is way more important.
You mentioned a moment ago that you've been doing some workouts. You're trying to get some workouts in, but obviously I'm assuming everything you're doing has to be individual. You're not allowed to do anything team-wise. I assume that's what you're doing, and you're just trying to find some gym space to keep yourself busy. Yeah,
so we have our strength coach kind of set up a makeshift gym for me in my parking space, in our practice facility parking space. So I'm using a makeshift gym there, going there 4 days a week, and a friend is lending me his gym out. It's called Westfield. It's right by Carmel, Indiana, and I'm there 3 days a week just shooting. So it's been big for me and my mindset in my body.
Yeah, it's kind of going back to the old school. You're out shooting in a parking lot. This wasn't what you thought the NBA was going to be like. It wasn't.
No, and it's funny, like you say, shooting in a parking lot. I don't even think that's possible. They're taking rims off of hoops in the parking lot. So I kind of lucked out.
So in the midst of all this, again, you're playing this is your first season with the Indiana Pacers, and you guys are having a pretty solid season. You pretty much had a playoff spot locked up when the whole thing got shut down. You still have about 17 games left in the regular season. But this is obviously, again, your first season with the Indiana Pacers. So I'm assuming that you're right now in a pretty happy space with where the Pacers were for this year.
Absolutely. I feel like no one really gave us a chance. And, that's why I love playing here so much is I feel like I've been overlooked since the moment I started playing basketball. And we've got a bunch of guys here that have been overlooked and are hungry. And we play that way and we play together and it shows with the way we've played this year.
You're 39-26, which actually ties you in the standings right now. If the playoffs were happening right now, you'd be tied with the Philadelphia 76ers going into that, ironically enough. Obviously, that was your old team for the last 4 years. It's going to be a bit of an irony for you, but I know you still have some pretty strong ties with the 76ers.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing 4 years in Philly. Have built lifelong relationships with people within the organization and in the city. But like I said, I am truly happy to be where I'm at. I love playing for the Pacers and couldn't be happier.
You came out of Arizona, you came out undrafted, and it was the 76ers. You went through the tryout camps with the 76ers, actually playing in their summer leagues, and ultimately a spot opened up. You were part of the process because that was the process, and TJ McConnell was part of the process. But I think you probably have a pretty strong relationship when it was all said and done with the Sixers head coach, Brett Brown.
I do. People don't really get to see the human side of him. All they get to see him do is his job and coach, and he's a pretty good coach. And the thing I respect about him most is just the way he goes about his business and the way he treats people. He's a grade A guy, and have a lot of respect for him.
Philly fans certainly loved you. They certainly held a great place in their heart for you. And I know your first game back at the end of November, you got a standing ovation, which had to be absolutely a mind-blowing experience for you.
Yeah, it was. It was a cool moment. Had never really experienced something like that, and to kind of see how I was loved in Philly and the way that they liked how I played, and with the video and the standing ovation, it just kind of speaks volumes about the Sixers organization and those fans. Again, just nothing but respect for both of them.
But now you're playing in Indiana, and they like basketball a little bit in the state of Indiana, do they not?
They created basketball, or so it seems here, and that's, again, it's unbelievable. They are so knowledgeable and passionate about basketball, and I love that. And it's been great going from Philly to here and playing in front of these fans. They're absolutely amazing, and like I said, I couldn't be happier.
If I can, I want to go a little bit down memory lane with you. Certainly the people in the city of Pittsburgh knew about the name TJ McConnell. The name McConnell in the city of Pittsburgh is pretty much what basketball is all about, between your father and your uncle and your Aunt Susie. All of that is part of the legacy, and now TJ McConnell is certainly a part of that legacy as well. But you played your high school basketball for your father, Tim, at Chartiers Valley High School. And in 2010, you got to a state championship. You took Chartiers Valley to a state championship. What's your best memory coming out of all of that from your high school basketball playing days and your trip to the state championships?
Just the camaraderie we had with the guys. Had a great 4 years at Chartiers Valley, and but my senior year we were incredibly close, and that's not taken away from the other 3 years. I thought our teams were incredibly close, but just the starting five and a lot of the other guys would always go out to eat and do a bunch of stuff, and I guess I missed those times more than anything.
Your championship game, 2010, you played Newman Goretti. They were making their debut. They've had some success since they played you in 2010. They've won 8 state championships, but you guys were a heavy underdog. I mean, everybody thought, let's just give the crown to Newman Goretti because they were coming in loaded up with Division I kids, and here comes this Chartiers Valley kid and this Chartiers Valley team that nobody knew a whole lot about, and you took them to the wire. Your memories from that game?
Yeah, it was fun. I'm sure a lot of guys on that Newman Goretti team will admit when they saw us, they overlooked us a lot. And, we didn't start off great, but, the way we finished, it wasn't how we wanted it to, but it just kind of shows what kind of team we were to take. I think they were the number 2 team in the country in our classification, and we took them down to the last shot and maybe should have beat them. So just kind of spoke volumes about how well coached we were by my dad and Sean Sherry and Kate Gannon, their assistants, and just the team that we had. It was an unbelievable ride.
Let's talk a little bit about that coaching world that you've been exposed to. Obviously, your dad as the head coach for you your entire life, really, but obviously your time at Chartiers Valley. You ended up your career at Arizona playing for another Pittsburgh legend in Sean Miller. Then you go to the NBA. You coach with, as we talked about, by Brett Brown, and now you're coached by Nate McMillan, who was a very good player for the Seattle Supersonics back in the day, and now is your head coach in Indiana. A little bit about the coaching tree and where your dad fits in all that coaching tree.
Well, he was my first coach, and not just because he's my dad. I think he is one of the greatest coaches I've had. Just how smart he is about the game, and never really took it easy on me out there. And I have so much respect for that. But, I could keep going on and on about my dad, and just I miss playing for him. And, he's still winning. But going over to the girls' side and being able to do what he does just speaks volumes about the type of coach and the type of person that he is.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting career for him at Chartiers Valley. He coached your younger brother, Matt. You both won WPAL championships with your dad as the head coach. And then he made the decision to flip over to become the head coach for the girls. And last year, 2019, they go 30-0, win the 5A state championship with your little sister, Megan, help running the show. So Megan has the ultimate bragging rights in the McConnell household because she's got the state championship and the boys do not.
Yeah, her and my dad don't really let us live that down. What can me and Maddie say? There's nothing much to be said. The proof's right there when they went undefeated and won a state championship. But, we're just incredibly proud of the career she's had. And unfortunately, she wasn't able to finish it and go for a back-to-back state championships. But like I said, we love Megan so much and so proud of her, and obviously so proud of my dad as well.
You mentioned it, and obviously it's a big thing, and it's come about over the course of the last week that obviously the PIAA shut down the state championships. Once Governor Wolf decided to close the schools, the PIAA made the decision to shut down what was left of the basketball state tournament and all the spring sports. So your dad and Chartiers Valley and your sister Megan were still on that run. They were now at 57 in a row because they had won 27 straight to start this year. So they had already reached the quarterfinals before the rug got pulled out from under them. So I take you back to that. Could you imagine what that must have felt like? That's really the ultimate gut punch. It's one thing to lose it on the floor, but to have that rug pulled out from under you, that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, you hate to have that feeling in your mind of what if this season resumed and we won another state championship and didn't lose another game. And, that's a tough pill to swallow for my sister and certainly my dad. So we don't know what they're going through, but, I kind of just told her that, there's nothing you can do, and you have a career at Duquesne ahead of you that you can start planning for, and just enjoy the rest of this time with your friends and cherish the memories that you made.
And one of the last things I wanted to touch base with you with, again, you and your 4 years with the Philadelphia 76ers, I think there was some pretty special bonds with you. I know you and Joel Embiid were pretty good friends. You guys really made some really strong relationships. I'm going to guess that your 4 years in the NBA and your time in Philadelphia probably generated some lifelong friendships for you.
Absolutely. Like you said, Joel has been a great friend of mine, and Jaleel Okafor, Jared Bayless, JJ Redick, Nick Stauskas was in my wedding. And I've built great friends here in Indy. I thank my time in Philly for being able to meet all those great guys and establishing lifelong friendships, and same with here in Indianapolis.
Do you have any gut instinct as to what happens between now and the next? I mean, nobody really knows what's going to happen over the course of the next couple of months with this whole COVID-19, but does your gut tell you that you'll still have something left in this season, or does your gut tell you that it's over?
I kind of go about my day, and I don't know this, but as if the season is going to resume. So I don't want to be caught off guard and haven't picked up a basketball or worked out just because I'm waiting to hear what what's going to happen. I go about my day thinking that the season is going to resume. So I'm working out and shooting as much as I can and kind of just trying to hear some type of news on whether the season is going to resume, and if so, when.
What a strange coincidence for you, TJ McConnell, on a team in Indiana with 3 other TJs. What's the deal with 4? There's 4 TJs on the roster for the Indiana Pacers.
So we teased our coach and said, "You're going to have to start calling us by our last name." When he would say, "TJ, get in there," 3 heads would turn. We didn't really know how to react.
It's very different. There's no doubt about it. It's one thing for somebody to say, "Hey, Joe, go in the game," but when it's TJ and you got 4 of them, that's a very strange coincidence. But it's all part of life in the world of sports, and when there's a needle to be thread, no reason why not to use it.
Right. Like you said, it's just one of those funny things, and funny fact that all the TJs that have ever played in the NBA have played for the Indiana Pacers. So it's funny, and what a coincidence.
It's been a great ride for you. You are in a lot of ways a great Cinderella story. Nobody gave you much of a shot beyond college basketball. And I go back to that when you were trying out. If you go back and look at it, when you were trying out for the 76ers, were you looking at it as just, let me see how far this can take me, or maybe it gets me a shot to go to the G League and I got to prove myself? Where was your mindset coming out of college when you had a great run in Arizona, but what was your mindset going into trying out for the 76ers back 5 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I never really got a chance to sit down and be like, what am I going to do here, and here? My mindset was always, I'm going to go down swinging and fight like every day is my last, and, let the chips fall where they may. And fortunately for me, it's worked out. I've scratched and clawed my way to where I'm at. And I think that has to do with how I went about my day and went about, trying to make the team.
You're a great story, and it's always been fun to watch, whether you're in high school, whether you're in college, and now in the NBA. Continued good luck for you, and hope you're back playing basketball inside rather than outside real soon.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
You bet. TJ McConnell, the guard for the Indiana Pacers in the National Basketball Association.